Shalom everyone and welcome to your second adventure day. Today we'll be looking at a song that is sung in synagogues, and this song is actually liturgy that they sing. And so it comes from two passages in the Bible, one from Proverbs and the other from Lamentations. And so this is what we'll be looking at today. Okay, so the song is called Eitz Chaiyym Hebrew, and it means it is a tree of life. And so this verse comes from Proverbs chapter 3, verse 18. So this is the first line that comes from Proverbs 3, verse 18. And so up here, I've put the Hebrew. Below it, I have put the transliteration, which is broken up into syllables so you can follow along. And then at the bottom here is the translation. Okay, so let's take a look at the first word. Now, just keep in mind, I'm not expecting you to know any of this, how to say it, how to say any of the words, or even the grammar. I'm just going to explain it to you, so if you ever hear it sung in a synagogue, or you're watching a video of a synagogue service and you hear this song, you will know what it means. And then after we look at the translation of this and how it's translated, we will do a letter search, and you can do an exercise of seeing how many consonants you can recognize. Okay, but first we're going to break down the Hebrew here. So the first word here is eitz, and eitz means tree. So over here, the way it's positioned in the sentence, it means a tree of, because of the next word. So this word is acting as a what you would call a construct chain. So you don't need to know this, but in Hebrew there's something called a construct chain, and this is how we get the word of, like of over here, how we get of in English. You get that by doing a construct chain in Hebrew. So this means a tree of, but a tree of what? We have to find out by continuing to read. And so we look at the next word, it's Chaiyim, Chaiyim. And Chaiyim comes from the word Chai. Chai means life. So Eitz Chaiyim means a tree of life. And then we're going to look at the next word. It is the word he. Now, this word he means she or it. So it specifically actually means she. We just have to use the word it in English when we see this word, when it's referring to, say, something that is not like a person or a living thing. So in English, we'll say it for things usually that are not referring to people. And so in Hebrew, you don't have a neuter word. So in English, we have masculine, feminine, and neuter words. So examples of masculine and feminine would be waiter, waitress, host, hostess, prince, princess, tiger, tigress, lion, lioness. So we have words that are masculine, feminine in English, but they're usually restricted to gender, so to male and female. But in English, we also have words that are neuter, which means they're like neutral. We have like the word it, and words such as table, chair, door, these kinds of things are neutral. We don't assign gender to it. Exactly like the way I said it. You get the idea. We don't do that in English. So unlike English, Hebrew has only masculine and feminine words. And so there's no neuter words. So when we're translating into English, we have to put the neuter word in because it doesn't make sense in English if we use masculine and feminine. So say if we're talking about a chair, I can't say he or she kind of thing to the chair. It doesn't make sense in English. But in Hebrew, it would. Just like over here, it's saying he over here, which means she in Hebrew. And this passage is talking about wisdom. So when you're talking about wisdom, you will say an it usually in English. Unless you're doing personification in English, then it makes sense why you would say a she. And since wisdom is usually personified as a woman, then you can still translate it as she and it will make sense in English, which is why some translations may say she or some may say it, okay? So just explaining that. You don't have to worry about this. You'll find out later on how Hebrew works. But for now, I'm just explaining that. So I've translated it as she because we usually personify wisdom as a woman in the Bible. Okay, so the next word we're going to look at is this. So this is actually the whole word here, but this first part of the word is a prefix. So in Hebrew, you have prefixes and suffixes, and they're usually letters that are attached to the beginning or end of a word, and they give you information. So this first part here is the letter Lamed. You haven't learned this letter yet, and it's okay. I'm just going to tell you what it is. Lamed makes a L sound, as in the letter L. So this first part here will be La. And the Lamed, when you have just a Lamed, it means the word to. But this part here actually means to the because of this dot and this dash underneath. So this whole thing is acting as a unit and it means to the. But to the what? We have to take a look at the rest of the word, which is this. And the whole thing together, when you want to say this whole word, it'll be Lama Chazi Kimba. Lama Chazi Kimba. And you can see that over here. Lama Chazi Kimba. And it means to the, as we saw here, to the what? Ones who take hold. And so this part over here, this word, comes from the root Chet. You've seen Chet before. You've learned that letter. Then you have Zaying. So Chet and Zaying. You've learned Zaying. And then we have a Kuf over here. You haven't learned this letter yet. It's fine. It's okay. But this is the root of the word. And it means to be strong, hold fast, or to grasp. So that's what this whole word here means. Lama Chazi Kimba means to the ones who take hold. And you can see how we have to use several words in English, whereas you just have this one word here. So all of this is squished into this one word here in Hebrew. And you can see Hebrew is a very compact language, is what I would call it, compact. You can fit everything really well into like one word. Whereas English, we have to use several words. Okay, we're going to take a look at the next word over here. And this first letter here is the letter Bet. You know this one. You've learned this letter before. And when it acts as a prefix over here, you can see it means in or on. So this part, the letter Bet, means like on or onto. And the next part here, you can see this is the letter Hey, but this comets here is actually acting as a unit. It's connected with the Hey here. And it's a suffix, and it means her or it. So this is called a pronominal suffix. And you don't have to worry about it. I'm just telling you what it means. It means like onto her. So the whole sentence would be, a tree of life she is, that is wisdom. It's saying wisdom is a tree of life to the ones who take hold onto her. So it sounds weird to say take hold onto her. We would say in English to the ones who take hold of her with an of. But this isn't the word of. It means like onto her, because you can see over here the way the words are working. But in English, we have to sort of rearrange words or finesse sort of words in English to make something make sense in English. It makes sense in Hebrew, but it doesn't make sense in English for us to understand. We'd find this very weird English. So we would say to the ones who take hold of her. But I've just translated it this way over here so you know how the word's working. Okay? So we're going to take a look at the next word. And this is a letter which you should know as well. This is the letter Vav. And it acts as the word and in Hebrew. So it's a connector or a conjunction, which we would call it in English. You'd call it a conjunction. And it connects things together. So that's why you see and. But and what? We're going to take a look at the next part of the word. So Vav is acting as a prefix. It's connected to this word. So it's and this word. So we're going to take a look at the word now. this part in red here comes from this root. It's tav. You haven't learned this yet. It's okay. This is the letter tav. This is the letter mem. And this is the letter chaf. You haven't learned any of these letters yet, but that's okay. I'll tell you what it means. It means to sustain, support, or to help. So, and help or supporters. So that's why it says and supporters. That's what it means. And so the next part, this is a suffix. We have a prefix and we have a suffix. So sometimes in Hebrew you can have prefixes, things being attached to the front of the words, and things being attached to the end of the word. So this part here, which is the segel here, the yod, and then the hey, and the comments, this whole thing acts as a unit, and it's also a pronominal sort of suffix that is at the end of a word, and it means her or its, right? Because we don't have neuter in Hebrew. In English, we'll have to add an its if it's an its. So that's what it means. And the whole word means vetom cheha. And I think I may have forgot to tell you what this word sounds like. This is, it's pronounced ba. Pretty easy right there. Ba. Okay, but this next word we're looking at is vetom cheha. So vetom cheha. And yeah, it's got the ch sound, but it's not a chet. This is a chaf. So sometimes you may get the sound che confused with the chafs and the chets. But that's okay. That's normal when you're learning at first. So the word altogether means and her supporters. So you can see how these three words are kind of squished into this one word in Hebrew. Okay, so moving on to the next word. This is me'ushar. So over here you can see me'ushar, me'ushar. And it means, it comes from this root over here, Aleph. You know Aleph. And then we have the letter Shin and Resh, which you don't know yet, but that's okay. So together, these letters are the root, and it means to be straight, right, or happy. And so this word over here means to be happy, and it means to be in the state of being happy. So the R over here, there's no verb in between. You have to supply the verb in English. You don't really have to do that in Hebrew. You know the word. You'll understand it in Hebrew. But in English, you kind of have to supply the verb when you're translating. And so the whole sentence means, a tree of life she is to the ones who take hold onto her, and her supporters are happy. So those who take hold of wisdom and support wisdom are people who will be in a state of happiness. So that's what it means. It means to be put in like a state of happiness. They are happy because they have wisdom. Okay? And what's interesting over here, so when they sing this part in the synagogue, when they sing the Tree of Life, they're actually singing about the Torah. And the Torah is referred also to the Tree of Life because in the Torah there is wisdom. So when they sing the song, they're actually singing this about the Torah and saying like the Torah is wisdom. Okay? So we're going to take a look at the next line in the song. And the next line comes from Proverbs chapter 3, verse 17. Okay? And so this is the first word here. I'm going to take a look at it. It's derache, this first part. So derache, this red part, comes from the word derech. Derech means road or way. And then this ending part here with the segel, yod, hey, and then the comments. We've seen that earlier before. That is the pronominal suffix her or its. So when you say deracheha, it means her ways. And I think I should have put the E also in red. I made a slight mistake there. So the E should be in red because the E refers to that segel over there. But that's okay. So deracheha means her ways. Okay? So deracheha means her ways. And then we're going to take a look at this next word here. this is the word darche. Darche means ways of, because remember I told you in Hebrew we don't have a word for like of, like in this sense of how we're using it in English. We use something called construct chain, and so this is a chain, which means this word is linked to the next word. That's why it's called a chain. So ways of. So even in English you can think of it as a chain. Ways of what? Pleasantness. Pleasantness is linked to this first part over here, this word. So it's a chain. So darche. Darche means ways of. And again, it comes from this word derech, which means road. Okay, so we're going to look at this next word here. This is noam, and it means pleasantness. So beauty or pleasantness. And darche noam means ways of pleasantness. Okay, going to look at this next word here. And we've seen this before. This is the letter Vav, and you know this letter. And it means and. And so it's acting as a prefix to this word. So we're going to take a look at what this word is. So and what? And all or every. So this is the word here. This is kol. In this part over here of the sentence, we'll say vechol, and it means and all. But and all what? Let's find out. This part here, over here, it comes from the word, this word here comes from the word nativ. Nativ means a beaten track, path, or way. So we saw this word here, and the word derech, it comes from the word derech. Derech means a road or a way. And we've seen this word here, and it comes from the word nativ, which means a beaten track or path or a way. So what's the difference between this way and this way? So this one is like a way in general. So all her ways, or all her roads or paths, anything connected to her. But this is something specific. This is a beaten track or a path or a way, which means it's a place continuously walked upon by so many people before you. So like everyone who's walked in wisdom, right, in the paths of wisdom that wisdom has walked through kind of thing, the path is safe because it's already been trodden on by so many other people. In this case, wisdom has already walked on that path. So when you walk on that path that wisdom has walked on, you're safe. It's kind of like security. So think about it. If you have two sort of roads, which road would you walk on? One that has never been walked on by anyone, which means you don't know what's going to happen on that road. You don't know where it's going to go, but you will walk on a path that everyone else has already walked on. And you would take a look at the path by seeing footsteps. So that's kind of the thing. So this path has already been walked on. That's what it means, a beaten track, path, or way. So it's a very specific one. So it's a difference between this way and this sort of way, paths. So this is nativoteh, this part, and then we see this ending, which we've seen before. It's the pronominal suffix, the feminine version, which is her. And so the whole word would be nativoteha, which means her paths. Okay, and then we're going to look at this last word, and it's the word shalom, which I'm pretty sure you probably know what this word means. But if you haven't, it's okay. It means peace. So you see, it means peace or wholeness. So usually in Hebrew, if you wanted to ask someone how they're doing, you say ma shalomcha, which means like, what is your peace, kind of thing. So you're asking if they're whole, or it basically encompasses everything about them, their health, everything of how they're doing. So everything is peace. Everything that is about them, they're completely whole. So all her paths are peace. And you can see here that I've supplied the verbs, which is why I put them in italics in this part. Okay, so going on to the next sentence. The next part of the song comes from Lamentations chapter 5, verse 21. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this first word, and it means it means like to turn back. So it comes from the root. So this word comes from the root shin, vav, and bet. But you don't know this letter yet. It's the letter shin. That's fine. But you should know this letter, these last two letters. You should know vav and bet by now. Okay? And if you're wondering why I'm saying bet when there's no dot here, it's because I took out all the dots and I just put the consonant in. So usually when you sometimes write things out like in the roots kind of thing, you just don't put any dots in it when you write the root out, like the letters as the root. But it's the letter bet there. And so this root means to return, turn back, or to restore, which is why I put over here, turn back. Okay, and then the ending part here, nu, is where we get the word us. So this whole word here, hashivenu, means turn us back. Okay, so we're going to go to the next word, which is God's name. This is God's name over here with the letters yod, hey, vav, and hey. And so when you'll be hearing the song sung in synagogues, they will say Adonai, Adonai. So that's why I put this here, Adonai, because I want you to know that that's what you'll be hearing in the song when they sing it. But this part here, I put Yahweh, so you know that this is how some people say God's name. They say it as Yahweh, okay? And so we're going to go to the next word here, which is Elecha, Elecha. And it comes from like two words here. So the first word here is a preposition, which is el, and it means toward or to. So toward or to. And then you have a chaf here with a kametz. You don't know this letter yet, but that's okay. I'm just letting you know that this thing is a suffix that comes at the end of a word, and it means you. It's in the masculine. So when I say to ms, to means second person. So you may have learned in English class first person, second person, and third person, right? When you're writing, and normally if you're in high school, you were taught to write essays in third person. But over here, this letter here is in second person, and the M stands for masculine, the S stands for singular. So it's not more than one you. So sometimes in English we don't have a plural or singular you in English. So we have to say other things like to add a word in. Some people may say y'all, to indicate that they're talking to a group of people. So this is in the singular though in Hebrew. So this word elecha means to you, because it's from the word el, and then you have the chaf here. So to you. Okay, and then we're going to go to the next word, and it's venashuva. Venashuva. And again, this also comes from the root shin, vav, and bet, which means to return, turn back, or restore. And you can see the vav here, which means and then the noon part, the letter noon over here, indicates it's a we, and the rest of it means like, so the whole thing together would mean and we will be restored. So and we will be restored is what this word means. Okay, and we're going to go to the next word, and this is chadesh, chadesh, and yes, it's the chet, which you've learned, that makes the ch sound. So hopefully you've been practicing that sound. And so this is chadesh, which means renew. Okay, and it comes from this root, which is chet, which you know, that letter. And you have dalet, which you also know that letter. And this is the letter shin, which you haven't learned it yet, but probably since I've said it several times during this video, you probably know what it is already. Okay, so this means renew. And now we're going to take a look at this word here. We have Yamenu Yamenu. And Yamenu means days, or our days here. So our days. And so it comes from the word yom. Yom means day. But remember we saw when you have the nu at the end, like this part at the end of the word, we saw previously, like over here. It meant us, or it can mean, so it means like us over here, and then over here it means our. So it usually means like a plural kind of thing. So Yamenu means our days. And then we're going to look at this last word here. It's kedem, kedem, kedem. And it's also like there's a prefix here, and then this is the word. So the prefix here, the kaf, means like, which is why we have the word as in the translation. So because we can't say renew our days like of old, would be weird in English to say like of old. So we say as of old in English. So that's the kaf. And then this part of the word, kedem, here means formerly, at the beginning, or like of old. So it's translated as of old. Okay? So this is the whole song. Eitz Chaiyym He, Lama Chazikim Ba, Vetom Cheha Me Ushar. Derache Ha, Darche Noam, V'chol Nativoteha Shalom. Hashivenu Adonai, Elecha V'nashuva. Chadesh Yamenu Kedem. And that is the song that is sung in the synagogue. Okay, and now I will do my best to try and sing the melody so you know what it sounds like. Eitz Chaiyym He, Lama Chazikim Ba, Vetom Cheha Meushar. Deracheha Darchei Noam, V'chol Nativoteha Shalom. Hashivenu Adonai, Elecha V'nashuva. Chadesh, Chadesh Yamenu, Chadesh Yamenu Kekedem. And so that's what the melody sounds like. And I'm not the best at singing it, so if you really want to hear what it sounds like sung really well, I've put a link in the description to a synagogue called Bethel Gibor, and this song will be sung by their rabbi. His name is Mark Shulman, so Rabbi Mark Shulman will be singing this song, and you can take a look at it but when this lesson's done, or whatever, or even now if you want to leave the lesson, you can go take a look at how he sings it if you want. So I'll be doing that for you. I've left the link in the description. Okay, so moving on, what we're going to do now is you're going to do a couple of exercises where you're going to focus on the consonants and see if you can remember all the ones you've learned so far. Okay, so what I'm going to do for you is, as always, I will remove the vowels so you can focus on the letters, and I will highlight God's name. As you can see here, it's in blue, so you know where it is. Okay, and so what you're going to do is you're going to try and find as many letters as you can for all the letters that you've learned this week. Okay, so I'm going to put a timer up. You get around 10 seconds, but as always, you can always pause the video. You don't need to actually follow the timer. If you want the challenge, you can always use the timer, but you can always pause the video if you need more time. Okay, so I'm going to put the timer up, and ready, set, go. And time's up. So let's see how many letters you found. So these are all the letters that are here that are from the letters that you've learned this week. So you've learned Chet here. You've learned Hey, and that's just another Chet. And then you've learned Zaying, and that over here is another Hey, and here's Vav. So the four letters you've learned this week, the four letters that you've learned this week is Chet, Hey, Zaying, and Vav. Okay, so these are the four letters you've learned this week. Now, let's see if you can find any of the letters that you learned in the previous week. And I've sort of darkened the red here, so it's not that distracting as you take a look at some of the other letters you've learned previously. So from the previous week, see if you can find any letters. And I'm going to put the timer up again. Ready, set, go. And time's up. So these are all the letters you've learned previously. So you've learned Aleph, which is the first letter in the Hebrew Aleph-Bet. And you've learned Bet, which is the second letter in the Hebrew Aleph-Bet. And then here's just another Aleph. And then you've learned Dalet, okay, which is the fourth letter, which means we're missing one that you've learned. So there is a letter that is not here in this Bible passage, in this verses over here, but it is a letter that you've learned previously. Do you know what letter it is? So yeah. So what letter is missing? Not missing from the verse, but missing from the group of letters that you've learned this past couple of weeks. So which letter is it? So if you sing the song, you'll probably guess what it is. Aleph-Bet, vet. It's Gimmel. So Gimmel's the third letter in the Hebrew Aleph-Bet, and that's the letter that is not in this passage because it's not in the verse, but it is a letter that you've learned previously, okay? So it's the letter Gimmel. Now, let's see if you can find all the guttural letters. So the guttural plus Resh club. What are all the letters that you've learned so far that are from this club? Okay, I'm going to put a timer up, and let's see if you can remember them. Ready, set, go. And time's up. So these are all the gutturals. So you have Chet, Hey, and Aleph. Okay, and so these are all the gutturals. You have Chet, Hey, and Aleph. And that's all the gutturals you've learned so far. And remember, Chet is closed. Hey has a gap here to let that puff of air out. So don't get these two letters confused. Sometimes if the Hebrew font may be a bit too tiny, I can also get it confused. So just keep that in mind that Hey has a gap here, okay? Okay, so the next thing you're going to try is to find all the Begadkefat letters. Ready, set, go. time's up. And so these are all the Begadkefat letters. So you have the letter Bet, Dalet, and of course Gimmel, hiding in the corner because he's not part of this passage in the Bible. Over here, there's no Gimmels in this verses. So he's hiding in the corner there. Now, if you have trouble remembering the Begadkefat letters, just try to remember the funny word Begadkefat. It is an acronym, and you can use this to try and remember the letters. The B stands for Bet over here, and we know Bet is the sound changing letter, so with the dot it makes a B sound. With no dot it makes a V kind of sound, as in the word van. So V, B, B, and V, V. Okay? So that's what the B stands for. The G stands for Gimmel, which makes a G sound. Now, Gimmel doesn't do any sound changing anymore. In the past, if you're using the ancient Hebrew pronunciation, Gimmel would have made a different sound. If you want to know what that sound is, you can take a look at the previous lessons for Gimmel, and you can get a refresher on that. And then the other part is the letter Dalet. That's what the D stands for. And it makes the same sound as the letter D, duh. And just like Gimmel, Dalet also doesn't make any sounds anymore. Like, it doesn't change the sound. So far, of the letters from the Begadkefat that you've learned, only Bet is doing the sound changing now. So far, you will learn more Begadkefat letters, because as you can see here, we got a K, F, and T. You still have to learn those three. Okay? So that's what you know so far from the Begadkefat letters. The next thing you're going to try, now this I'm not expecting you to know at all. You will learn more of this when you do vowels, but we did touch on it in the previous videos. So if you would like to try this exercise out, you can try it out and do this letter search and try and find all the mothers of reading letters. So far, out of all the letters you've learned, what are the consonants that can sometimes act as vowels? Remember, in English, the letter Y can act as a vowel sometimes when it makes the Y sound, as in you or yellow. It makes a consonant sound, so a Y sound. But at other times, when you say the word crazy, lazy, it makes an E sound at the end, so it's acting as a vowel. So try and see if you can remember some of the consonants here that act as vowels, okay? So far, here's a hint. You've only learned 2 letters that act as vowels so far, okay? So try and see if you can do it. I'm not expecting you to know this, but you can at least try to see if you can remember it, okay? Because it's better if you do now, if you can try to remember it, all right? So I'm going to put a timer up, and you're going to go in 1, 2, 3. And time's up. So these are all the letters that act as vowels. And you can see that it looks like a lot, but actually it's just 2 letters. The letter Hey and the letter Vav can act as vowels. Now, I've highlighted all of the letters here, like Hey and Vav, but I wasn't being specific as to which ones were acting as vowels and which ones weren't. I just wanted you to find all of them, all the letters, like all the Heys and Vavs, and just know that Hey and Vav can act as consonants or vowels. But usually if the Vav is before the word like this, sometimes it's acting as a consonant. So over here, this is vechol, which means it's acting as a consonant here. Okay, so these are all the mothers of reading letters that you know so far. And now, what you should know before moving on from this adventure day and branching out into any of the other lessons. You should know all these letters so far. So you should know Aleph-Bet, Vet, Gimmel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zaying, Chet. And you should be able to say them just like the way I did. And if you're having trouble remembering them and saying them like this, then you probably need to spend more time with these letters and practicing them before moving on. You don't want to accumulate more knowledge and more letters when you can't do the previous ones. Otherwise, you're going to get overwhelmed and frustrated. Okay? So first, if you're having trouble with these, go back, review these, and make sure you're listening to the Aleph-Bet song. It sounds very annoying, and sometimes it feels childish listening to it, but it's important because that song sticks in your head and you will eventually remember all the letters and you can sing it. And if you can sing them, you'll be able to say these letters in order like this. Okay? The other thing you should know is the Begadkefat letters. And you should know these letters so far, the ones in red here, that are part of the Begadkefat club. So you should know this acronym, Begadkefat. You should know the letters that you've learned so far that are part of this club. So that would be the Bet, and Bet and Vet are the same letter, just with or without the dot. So Bet, Gimmel, Dalet. So Bet, Gimmel, Dalet are part of the Begadkefat club. And this acronym can help you in remembering that, okay? So the next thing you should know are the Gutturals plus Reish club. You should know that Aleph, Hey, and Chet are part of this club. And you should also be working on your pronunciation for the letter Chet. Practice making the ch sound, okay? So that's what you should be practicing, because the ch sound is not going anywhere and it's going to show up again with another letter. And if you can master it here with the letter Chet, then you won't have trouble when you see the other letter. Okay? So those are the things you should know. Now the other thing, which I'm not expecting you to know, but I'm hoping it stays like at the back of your mind, so that way when we work on vowels you won't freak out, but you should have this at the back of your mind, that the letter Hey and Vav are vowel letters. They can act as consonants, but they can also act as vowel helpers. Okay? So that's what you should be knowing, all this stuff going forward from this adventure day and going into the next lessons. If you don't know any of this, except for this part, I'm not expecting you to know this. You will have to know it later on when you do vowels. But I'm expecting you to know these two because this involves the consonants. You definitely need to know this and all these letters moving forward. Do not go to the next lessons if you do not know this. Work on those on these letters, okay? Because I don't want you to have your brain fully saturated with so much information that it becomes mush and then you give up and get frustrated when you can't remember everything in all the letters, okay? So practice this first before going on to anything else. And remember to listen to that Aleph-Bet song, okay? So if you're comfortable with this lesson and you were able to remember all those letters and you were able to remember the clubs, the Gutturals plus Reish club and the Begadkefat club, not too much worried about vowels, but if you're able to even remember those vowel things like the consonants that act as vowels, then you're pretty much okay to move on to the next lesson. And I will see you in the next lesson, okay, where you learn the letter Tet. Okay, so until then, shalom and God bless, and keep working on your Chet sounds, okay? And don't forget to listen to the Aleph-Bet song. Shalom.